Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I thought for this year, I thought I'd do something kind of unique. I thought I'd try to hone in on or channel my Hallmark Channel vibes, if you will, and talk about the Thanksgiving sprint and AgileDad story. Now, this story isn't necessarily, well, based on a true story, but it is a fun story. I hope it warms your heart, and happy Thanksgiving, everyone. So, today's story is about what Thanksgiving really means when you treat gratitude like an agile practice. Small iterations, servant leadership, and showing up for your people. Pull a chair in close because this one's going to be a keeper. It started 2 years ago in a neighborhood that I know well, a mix of veterans, young families, recent transplants, and folks who'd been in the same house so long that they remembered when a spotlight at the corner was just, or I'm sorry, they remembered when a stoplight at the corner was just a tree. Someone on the block said aloud what people often think but don't say. We've got plenty, but a lot of us are missing parts that make Thanksgiving feel like a real Thanksgiving. So we did what all agilists do. When problems fuzzy, we created a backlog. Not a literal spreadsheet, although there was a whiteboard involved, but a living list. Who needed a meal? Who could cook? Who had extra chairs? Who could volunteer to pick up pies? Who could act as a drop-off point for donations? We prioritized by impact and feasibility. Warm meals for elders and veterans, a few care packages for single parents, and a community table in the park for anyone who just wanted to stop by. We called it our Thanksgiving sprint. The team was gloriously mismatched. Retired Navy logistics folks, a neighborhood baker, two teenagers who needed service hours, a part-time nurse, and of course me, a guy who spent a lifetime coaching teams to make things happen without losing their humanity. We wrote stories on Post-its, deliver 40 hot meals to homebound neighbors, provide childcare for families attending the community table, collect coats and blankets as donations. Day zero was a classic kickoff, a 5-minute stand up on someone's porch where someone brought coffee and the dog accepted the role of scrum mascot. We set a clear definition of done. Every meal on time, every recipient called the day before. No single person doing everything. The last part was important. We'd seen too often how heroic single person saves burn people out, but this is a team game. Then the twist. 2 days before the event, a late autumn storm blew through. Trees down, power flickering. The park pavilion we planned to use lost its electricity. The baker's oven was out. The obvious answer was to cancel. The agile answer was to adapt. We did a quick replan, an emergency mini retrospective, and replanning in the rain. The retired Navy logistics lead took charge of rerouting. We know who has working kitchens and who has vehicles with cargo space. Let's reassign. The nurse offered to check on elders who might need medical attention. The teenagers volunteered to be drivers. One neighbor, everyone called her Miss Rosa, said, "My stove works, and I'll donate pies if someone can bring them here." We added a new story to the backlog, pivot to distributed kitchens and porch deliveries. That's the heart of the story. Gratitude isn't a single polished moment. It's a practice of small, generous acts chained together by good coordination. It's a plan that expects to change. It's a leader who creates space for others to step in. On Thanksgiving morning, the system hummed. The community table moved to 3 porches and a church basement that had power. Volunteers spread out in pairs. Pairing matters in every practice, even gratitude. It was safer, faster, and kinder. Meals were plated in kitchens that had become pop-up restaurants. Drivers radioed in for routing updates like they were in a live sprint. The teen drivers who had no idea how meaningful their warm-handed thermal carriers would feel to an elder learned something about punctuality and tenderness that a classroom rarely or never teaches. One delivery sticks with me. We had a veteran on the block, Mr. Alvarez, who lived alone. He had lost both legs years earlier, and his wife had passed the previous winter. He was proud, closed, and not a man who asked for help. We planned to deliver a hot meal and sit on his porch for a bit. When a kid handed him the insulated container, he opened it up like sunrise. He told us about the first Thanksgiving he'd ever cooked for his platoon. how they shared corny jokes and dry stuffing, and how the smell of roasted turkey still brought everything back. He put his hand on the volunteer's arm and said, "You don't know what you fixed today." The volunteer, barely 19, looked like she'd been handed the most honest compliment of her life. There was genuine gratitude in the room on both sides. After the meals were done, we did a retrospective. Not a corporate check the box exercise, but a real conversation. What worked? What didn't work? What do we want to try again next year? People spoke with honesty. The retired Navy logistics lead said, "Next year, we'll pre-map kitchens and volunteers by capability." The baker said, "We'll run 2 shifts and train a backup." Miss Rosa, who had donated pie, said, "I felt more alive than I have in months." We wrote these improvements on a whiteboard and promised to try one change early. A small experiment, a shared calendar with kitchen capacity. Here's the thing that made the whole sprint feel like Thanksgiving: the focus on presence, not perfection. Nobody pretended the food was Michelin level. Nobody pretended everyone could come. What mattered was that people showed up for one another. That's what the agile practice of gratitude looks like. Inspect, adapt, and show up again and again. Over time, those small, generous iterations changed the neighborhood culture. People began to check in more, borrow tools more freely, and share more than just meals. They shared their time, their talents. They shared short stories and a willingness to be visible for each other. So, what's the takeaway for you? I knew you were going to ask. Whether you're leading a team, a family, or a neighborhood, start with a small backlog of good intentions. Prioritize based on impact and feasibility. Design for resilience, expect change, and make plans that can pivot. Coach for service. Give tasks to people who can do them well and let them lead. Pair up. Help and humility travel better when shared. And finally, finish with a retrospective. Gratitude grows when you can learn and iterate based on what happened. Thanksgiving at its best is not a holiday where everything is perfect. It's a practice where we choose again and again to turn our resources, time, and kindness towards others. It's less about the centerpiece and more about the way we carry each other through the storm. And if you ask me, that's the most agile thing we can do. If you've got a Thanksgiving sprint story of your own, I'd love to hear it. Send a quick note over to learnmore@agiledad.com and tell us about it, or drop a comment on the episode page below. We're going to share the best ones in a future episode, so be sure to comment and tell us your story. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this special episode. Until next time, stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Do take care. Bye now.